They attacked her in front of her son. That fact alone, clean, brutal, unadorned, would later become the headline buried 3 paragraphs down in a local paper no one at Fort Halcyon read anymore. But on that night, it wasn't a headline. It was breath and blood and the sound of a child crying against concrete. Fort Halcyon sat on the edge of the desert like a withheld secret. Not hidden, just ignored. A secure logistics and intelligence installation tucked between low hills and federally owned wasteland, its perimeter lights humming in amber monotony, its gates manned by men and women who had learned how to look past things without seeing them. Sergeant First Class Evan Cole had the midnight watch. He stood inside the Security Operations Center, a windowless concrete room humming with monitors, radios, and the low-frequency vibration of generators that never fully shut down. Cole had been in uniform for 13 years. Infantry first, then base security after a knee injury ended his chances of airborne. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't loud. He was the kind of soldier commanders forgot about until something went wrong, and then suddenly needed. The clock above the main monitor read 23:41. Cole sipped burnt coffee and scanned the feeds. Gate Bravo, quiet. Motor pool, empty, family housing sector. C, dim streetlights, parked cars, nothing unusual, then camera C-17 flickered. Cole leaned forward. A woman stood near the sidewalk outside Building 312. Early 30s maybe. Dark jacket, hair pulled back. A child beside her, small, clutching a plastic dinosaur, the kind with the paint rubbed off from too much love. 3 men approached from the far end of the street. Cole felt it before he named it. Zoom C-17, he said quietly. The image sharpened. The men were civilians, contractors maybe, no uniforms. One laughed, head tilted back. Another walked too close. Inside the bubble that people who've lived hard learn to protect. The woman shifted her stance. Cole noticed that immediately. She didn't step back. She angled. The child moved behind her without being told. Cole's fingers hovered over the radio. Then the first shove came. It wasn't dramatic. Not a punch. Just a hand to the shoulder. Testing. The kind of move men use when they think no one's watching. The woman said something Cole couldn't hear. The man shoved her again, harder. The child screamed. Cole was already standing. Dispatch, this is SFC Cole. Possible altercation. Family housing C, Building 312. Sending patrol. Copy, the dispatcher said, voice calm, practiced. On the screen, the second man grabbed the woman's arm. That's when everything changed. She didn't flail. She didn't panic. She moved, a sharp pivot. Her elbow snapped up, clean, precise, into the man's throat. Not full force, controlled, enough to drop him gasping. The third man swore and lunged. The woman stepped inside his reach and swept his leg with mechanical efficiency. He hit the pavement hard, the sound echoing through the empty street. For half a second, the world froze. Cole stared. That wasn't luck, he thought. Then the first man recovered. He struck her from behind. She went down hard. The child screamed again, raw now, terrified. Cole broke into a run before the patrol unit even rolled. By the time security vehicles flooded the street, it was already over. The men were gone. The woman lay curled on her side, one arm around her son, blood darkening the concrete beneath her cheek. She was conscious. Barely. Her eyes were open, tracking, assessing. Cole knelt beside her. "Ma'am," he said gently, "help is here." Her gaze snapped to his rank insignia. "Don't let them near my son," she whispered. Then she passed out. The woman who didn't file a complaint. Her name was Claire Mercer. She lived quietly. No social media, no drama. She worked in logistics, civilian side, processing supply, manifests that never made sense unless you knew what they were really for. Her son, Noah, was 6. The incident report described her as uncooperative but not hostile. She refused to speculate, refused to exaggerate, refused to cry in front of anyone except the base medic who cleaned the blood from her hair while Noah sat rigid in the corner, dinosaur clenched in white-knuckled silence. She declined victim advocacy. She declined counseling. She declined to press charges. That alone set off alarms. SFC Cole sat in the after-action review the next morning, jaw tight, hands folded on the table. "Let me get this straight," he said carefully. 3 unidentified civilian males enter family housing after curfew, assault a dependent in front of a child, and we're closing the loop? The base security officer, Major Renshaw, didn't look at him. Ms. Mercer didn't file a formal complaint, Renshaw said. No IDs, no clear faces on camera. Contractors rotate weekly. It's unfortunate, but she neutralized 2 of them before going down, Cole cut in. Renshaw's eyes lifted slowly. That's speculation. No, sir. That's footage. Silence stretched. Renshaw leaned back. Sergeant, you're reading too much into this. Cole didn't respond, but something had lodged in his chest. Because Cole had seen violence before. Real violence. And what Claire Mercer did hadn't been instinct. It had been trained. When she woke in the base clinic, the first thing Claire did was check the door. Second, her son. Noah slept curled in a chair beside the bed, face blotchy from crying, dinosaur tucked beneath his chin. Only then did she allow herself to breathe. The medic smiled gently. You scared him pretty bad. Claire swallowed. I know. You scared us too, the medic added. Those moves you pulled? Where'd you learn them? Claire met her eyes. Community college self-defense. The medic laughed, but something in Claire's gaze made the sound trail off. I'll put that down, she said softly. Claire closed her eyes. She had buried that life. She had earned the right to. The son who saw everything Noah didn't speak that night, or the next day. He flinched at footsteps, at laughter, at men who walked too close. Claire noticed everything and said nothing. That was her discipline now. Containment. But late that night, as desert wind rattled the windows, Noah finally whispered, Mom? Yes, buddy. You're not just a mom, are you? Claire closed her eyes. No, she said. But that's the most important thing I am. The base returned to its rhythms quickly. Morning PT groups moved in formation under a pale sun. Engines turned over. Radios crackled with logistics codes no one outside the fence would ever hear. Fort Halcyon did what it had been designed to do, absorb disruption and keep moving, but disruption leaves residue. Sergeant First Class Evan Cole felt it in the way the security desk avoided his eyes. In the way the incident file was already marked administratively resolved. In the way camera C-17's archived footage had been temporarily unavailable when he tried to pull it for a second review. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't make a scene. That wasn't his style. Instead, he started noticing patterns. The quiet pressure. Claire Mercer returned to work 3 days after the assault. She wore a long-sleeved blouse despite the heat, hair tied back tight. The bruising on her jaw was fading to yellow. Anyone who looked long enough could see it, but no one did. On base, people learned quickly where not to look. Her supervisor, a civilian GS-13 named Holloway, cleared his throat when she walked in. Glad you're back, he said, too quickly. Flexible hours if you need them. I don't, Claire replied. Holloway nodded, relieved. Good. Good. We're under review, you know. Auditors coming in. Best if everything stays stable. Claire sat at her terminal and logged in. She processed manifests for 6 hours straight without error, but she felt it. The subtle shift, the careful distance, the unspoken agreement that the incident was now an inconvenience. At lunch, a woman from procurement leaned in and whispered, I heard what happened. You okay? Claire didn't look up from her tray. I tripped, she said. The woman blinked, then nodded, accepting the fiction. That night, Claire stood at Noah's bedroom door long after he fell asleep. She replayed the moment again and again. The shove, the angle, the choice. She had promised herself she'd never use those skills again unless there was no alternative. There had been no alternative. That scared her more than the men ever had. Memory Cole requested access to the footage again. Denied system maintenance, the tech said without meeting his eyes. Cole thanked him and walked away. He didn't need the footage anymore. He remembered it. The woman's foot placement, her center of gravity, the way she protected the child before engaging. That wasn't civilian training. That was doctrine. Cole had trained alongside special operations units overseas, never as one of them, but close enough to recognize the difference between raw aggression and disciplined violence. Claire Mercer hadn't fought to win. She'd fought to control. That night, Cole pulled her personnel file, redacted. not classified, just empty. No prior service listed, no overseas travel, no security flags, clean, too clean. Cole leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly. "Who are you?" he murmured. The men who came back, it happened again a week later. Not an assault, this time. Just presence. Claire noticed them first, two men leaning against a fence near the Child Development Center. Contractor badges clipped low. They weren't watching the kids, they were watching her. Claire's hand tightened on Noah's backpack strap. "Mom?" Noah whispered. "Keep walking," she said calmly. Her heart rate stayed steady. Her mind did not. They hadn't been random. She had known that from the beginning. That night, Claire locked every door and window, then sat at the kitchen table until 0300, a cup of untouched tea cooling in her hands. She thought about names she hadn't said in years, places that no longer existed. A trident she hadn't worn since another lifetime. She had walked away clean, or so she thought. The patrol that lingered Cole altered his patrol route without logging it. Unofficial. Just enough to pass Building 312 twice a night. He told himself it was routine. But when he saw the unfamiliar sedan idling across the street one evening, routine went out the window. Cole slowed the vehicle, lights off. The sedan drove away. Cole memorized the plate anyway. It belonged to a shell company tied to a contracting firm that didn't technically exist on Fort Halcyon's books. That bothered him. A lot. He brought it to Major Renshaw. Renshaw sighed. "Sergeant, you're chasing ghosts. With respect, sir, ghosts don't pull permits." Renshaw's expression hardened. "You're getting close to lines you don't want to cross." Cole met his gaze. "I've crossed worse." Renshaw stood. This conversation never happened. Cole saluted and left. He didn't slow his step. Noah's question. Noah had nightmares now. Not monsters. Not shadows. Men with no faces. One night, after Claire sat beside his bed until his breathing evened out, he asked softly, "Mom, were you scared?" Claire considered lying. She didn't. "Yes," she said, "but I knew what to do." "How?" Claire brushed his hair back gently. "Because once, a long time ago, I learned how to protect people who couldn't protect themselves." Noah was quiet for a moment. "Did you protect me?" Claire's voice broke, just slightly. Always. The name that shouldn't have been there. Cole finally got what he needed from an old friend. Not footage. A name, a logistics anomaly tied to a defunct overseas unit, one that officially disbanded 8 years ago after a classified operation went sideways. The name wasn't Claire Mercer. It was close enough to hurt. Cole stared at the screen. His stomach dropped. Because the woman in the file wasn't just trained. She was elite. And if someone was watching her now, it meant something unfinished had followed her home. Cole shut down the terminal and sat in silence. Then he stood. If the system wouldn't protect her, he would. Claire Mercer woke at 042. No alarm, no noise, just the old reflex, the one that never really dies. She lay still, eyes open, counting. 1, 2, 3, nothing. The house was quiet. Noah's door closed, the hum of the refrigerator, wind brushing against the siding. She exhaled slowly and sat up. Some habits don't belong to the present. They belong to a former life that waits patiently, like a shadow that only appears when the light shifts just right. She hadn't dreamed. That worried her more than nightmares ever did. The flashback. She couldn't stop. She hadn't thought about Coronado in years, but the smell of disinfectant in the base clinic had pulled her there without warning. Cold Pacific air, salt on her lips, the sound of waves colliding with human will. Bud S. Hell Week, men quitting, men breaking, the ocean claiming skin and sleep and certainty. She remembered the looks when she showed up, the disbelief, the doubt, the quiet challenge. She remembered proving them wrong, not with anger, with endurance. She remembered the trident pressed into her palm at the end, not ceremony, just acknowledgement. You belong. She had belonged once, then came deployments. Names that never made the news. Missions that didn't exist. She had learned how to disappear. Eventually, she did. Cole's line in the San SFC. Evan Cole didn't sleep either. He sat in his truck outside the base perimeter, engine off, notebook open on his lap. He had written one name at the top of the page, then circled it, then underlined it twice. The file he'd seen wasn't supposed to exist. A female operator attached to Naval Special Warfare, seconded to a Joint Task Unit so quiet it never even earned a patch. Official status, KIA, administrative closure. Unofficial reality, walked away under sealed orders. The name in the file didn't match Claire Mercer, but the biometrics did. Cole rubbed his face. Jesus, he muttered. He understood now why the incident was being buried. Not to protect the attackers, to protect the past. Someone didn't want her found, or worse, someone already had. Cole started the engine. He wasn't going to wait anymore. The visit Claire opened the door with her body angled, weight balanced. She saw the stance instantly. Not aggressive, alert Ms. Mercer, Cole said quietly. Sergeant First Class Evan Cole, base security. She didn't relax. Is something wrong? Yes, Cole said. But not officially. She studied him, measured him. Finally, she stepped aside. Cole entered the small living room, eyes automatically scanning exits. Noah's drawing hung crooked on the wall, stick figures holding hands beneath a sun that smiled too hard. Cole swallowed. I'm not here to ask about the incident, he said. I'm here because someone is watching your house. Claire didn't blink. I know. Cole nodded. Good. Then I'll say this plainly. The people involved aren't random contractors. They're tied to something off books. And whatever you were before, stop, Claire said softly. Her voice wasn't angry. It was final. Cole held up a hand. I'm not here to expose you. I don't care who you were. I care who might come next. Silence stretched. From the hallway, Noah's voice drifted in. Mom, Claire closed her eyes for a moment. Then she turned back to Cole. How long do we have? She asked. Cole didn't pretend. I don't know. That was answer enough. The preparation. Claire didn't own a weapon. That had been intentional, but she still knew how to turn a room into an advantage. She moved through the house differently now. Windows, angles, shadows. Cole watched quietly. She wasn't paranoid. She was methodical. You ever think about running? He asked. Yes, she replied. Every day. Why don't you? Because they already know where I am, she said. Running just makes you tired. Cole nodded slowly. Then we prepare, he said. She met his eyes. You're risking your career. Cole shrugged. Wouldn't be the first time. The men in the dark, they came 2 nights later. No masks, no shouting, just precision, power cut first. Then the back door. Claire felt it before she heard it, the pressure change, the silence where sound should be. She moved. Noah was already in the closet, just like she'd practiced. No tears, no noise. Claire stood in the hallway, bare feet on cold tile. The first man rounded the corner. She disarmed him in 3 seconds. The second got 1 step further. Then Cole's voice cut through the dark. Base security, drop it! Gunfire shattered the quiet, short, controlled. When the lights flickered back on, 2 men lay on the floor, alive, but very aware they had failed. Cole stood shaking slightly, weapon lowered. He looked at Claire, not with fear. With respect. The truth they couldn't bury anymore. By morning, Fort Halcyon was locked down, not officially, but everyone felt it. The men captured weren't contractors, they were cleanup, sent to ensure a loose end stayed buried. Cole handed his evidence directly to an outside investigator he trusted, someone who still believed in oaths. The chain of command panicked. Too many eyes now, too much blood on the concrete. Claire sat beside Noah on the clinic bed, holding his hand. Is it over? He whispered. Claire kissed his forehead. It's almost over. Fort Halcyon had 2 faces. By day, it was procedural. Clipboards, inspections, rehearsed professionalism. By night, it became something older and more honest. Floodlights cutting through dust, armed patrols moving with intent, radios whispering instead of speaking. After the break-in, the base didn't announce a lockdown. It didn't have to. Every door badge was suddenly audited. Every contractor's credentials were double-checked. Patrol routes overlapped in ways they never had before. Someone, somewhere, was afraid. The cost of doing the right things, Sergeant First Class Evan Cole was relieved of duty at 0930. No charges, no explanation, just a quiet order and a folded piece of paper slid across a desk. Temporary administrative leave. Major Renshaw said, not meeting his eyes. Effective immediately. Cole nodded once. Yes, sir, you understand this isn't personal. Cole allowed himself a thin smile. Sir, nothing about this ever is. Renshaw finally looked up. You've made powerful people uncomfortable. Cole stood. Then maybe they should ask themselves why. Renshaw said nothing as Cole turned in his badge, but his hands were shaking. Claire steps forward. They tried to keep her out of it, suggested relocation, quiet compensation, a fresh identity somewhere far from desert bases and amber lights. Claire listened. Then she said no. She stood in a secure conference room 2 days later, dressed simply, posture relaxed, eyes sharp. Across the table sat men and women with flags on their shoulders and clearance levels that outranked conscience. I didn't break my silence for revenge, Claire said calmly. I broke it because you sent armed men into my home. A colonel cleared his throat. Ms. Mercer, your past service is classified, Claire finished. I know. It always was. She slid a small flash drive across the table. But some truths don't stay buried just because you stamp them that way. Silence. One of the men paled as he read the file name. The task force they'd disbanded. The op that had gone wrong. The money that kept moving long after it was supposed to stop. The cleanup orders. Claire leaned forward. You trained me to finish the mission, she said. This one ends now. Noah's strength. While adults argued and postured, Noah sat in the base chapel with a coloring book. A chaplain knelt beside him. Your mom is very brave, he said gently. Noah didn't look up. She's just doing what she knows how to do. The chaplain smiled softly. That's usually what bravery is. Noah colored the sun last, bright, unbroken. The hearing, it wasn't public, but it was real. Witnesses, testimony. Records pulled from places no one had checked in years. Cole testified without embellishment. I saw a trained operator protecting her child, he said, and I saw an institution try to look away. The room was quiet. A general leaned forward. Would you do it again? Cole didn't hesitate. Yes, sir. The fall contracts were terminated, careers ended, a task force was exposed for what it had become. Less shield, more shadow. No dramatic arrests, just consequences, the kind that lasts longer. The last night at Halcyon Claire packed quietly. Noah slept on the couch, Dinosaur clutched in his arms. Cole stood by the door. You could stay, he said. You've earned it. Claire shook her head. Some places are meant to be passed through. She paused. Thank you. For seeing me. Cole nodded. For reminding me why I put the uniform on. They shook hands. Firm, respectful, equal. The desert was still when Claire Mercer left Fort Halcyon. No sirens, no ceremony, just the low sound of tires on asphalt and the slow retreat of floodlights in the rearview mirror. Noah slept in the passenger seat, Dinosaur tucked beneath his arm, breathing steady again for the first time in weeks. Claire drove with both hands on the wheel, posture relaxed but alert, muscle memory guiding her through the darkness. She didn't look back. The aftermath, Fort Halcyon, didn't collapse. Institutions rarely do. They absorb damage, shed compromised parts, and continue. But something had shifted. Camera C-17 was repaired and left on. Contractor oversight changed. Reports were actually read. Not because everyone had suddenly become brave, but because someone had proven that silence had a cost. Sergeant First Class Evan Cole was reinstated 3 months later. Different assignment, same rank. A quiet commendation placed in his file, unpublished but permanent. He didn't frame it, didn't talk about it. But when young soldiers asked him why integrity mattered, he didn't quote regulations. He told them a story about a woman who stood between danger and her child, and a choice. A mother, not a ghost. Claire and Noah settled somewhere with trees and seasons, a place where sirens meant ambulances, not alarms. Claire taught logistics at a community college. Noah learned to ride a bike. Some nights, when the world felt heavy, Claire would sit on the porch and let the past drift close, never touching, never fully gone. She didn't regret who she had been. She didn't romanticize it either. That chapter had ended exactly when it needed to. One evening, Noah asked, "Mom, are you a hero?" Claire smiled. "No," she said. "I'm a guardian." Noah nodded, satisfied. The things that last time passed, People forgot details, they always do, but some things endured quietly. A base that learned to watch itself, a soldier who chose conscience over comfort, a child who learned that strength doesn't shout, and a woman who proved that discipline, once earned, never fades. Claire never wore the trident again. She didn't need to. It lived in how she stood, how she watched doors, how she loved. True strength is not found in rank, authority, or secrecy. It lives in the quiet moment when someone chooses to protect what is right. Even when no one is supposed to be watching,